I believe trauma is a gift once you heal it.
How does the listener at home unpack these subconscious traumas and beliefs?
In one word, what's the one thing you dislike most about Dad? Nothing wrong with having a shit life if that's what you want.
What's some advice you can give a listener who knows that if they delay, things will get worse, but they haven't felt that pain yet? You've got a business and you're successful, or you've got a role that you enjoy and it's paying the bills, but
just be aware of where you have resistance and tune into it.
Keep achieving more without needing it and be.
A dynamic entrepreneur and author, known for his inspiring journey from personal struggles to professional triumph, Lewis has captivated audiences with his book and motivational speaking. His unique insights into overcoming adversity and achieving greatness make him a compelling guest.
All right, Lewis Huckstep, you have been crushing it, helping so many people with their mindset, with their purpose, with their trauma. Our listeners are struggling in their marriages, struggling with balance, struggling with health. They are trying to become the best version of themselves. And I know how much value you're going to add today. So first of all, thank you for being here, brother.
Grateful to be here, man. And great to connect. And just even before we click record, just flows well, good connection. So I'm sure this will be a great chat.
It's going to be insane, bro. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do and what sort of work you've been doing with the clients that you work with.
I guess the current iteration of me, I'm a coach. I help people find who they truly are, their purpose, their values, their mission, their vision from an authentic space. I help them do the inner work. That's probably my favorite conversation of like the trauma, limiting beliefs and blocks that are sabotaging people from being the best version of them. And then the skills and strategies, because I take the piss out of my spiritual mates all the time. And I'm spiritual to some degree, but there's like a spectrum of spiritual people who are into manifestation, meditation. They've got their crystals and sage, but they don't fucking do anything with their life and they just do nothing.
Yeah.
And then you got the other high achiever hustlers on the other side where it's like work, but they're unfulfilled. So for me, it's integrating the two where I'm a super autistic, Asperger's structured human where I like to take action, have structure and do the thing, but I'm also learned to lean into the fulfillment, the purpose, the values aspect of things. So it's kind of integrate the spiritual fulfillment, who you are, what you love, heal through your shit, whilst also being a practical human about building businesses, doing what you love, helping people. So blending those two worlds together is kind of my sweet spot.
That's so good for what we're going to talk about today. So obviously high performers, guys who are hustling and grinding, what have been your challenges and traumas that have got you to this place? Because I see a successful guy who's changing lives, but I'm assuming it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
So what was your journey from breakdown to breakthrough, if that even existed? What did that look like?
I always start at the beginning because your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound. So whatever was most painful for you in your upbringing, that's the seed that is planted many years ago. And once you heal it, that's when it becomes a gift. I believe trauma is a gift once you heal it.
Yeah.
But not everyone opens their gifts. And I'm here to help people open their gifts. So my gifts that were given to me many years ago was mental, emotional abuse through dad, through family, through my nervous system just being super dysregulated, the Asperger's and autism added to that. I downloaded heaps of beliefs that I wasn't enough, that I had to achieve to be enough. And that resulted in the overachiever, which is probably a lot of the men that you help work with, who think their self-worth is dictated on the things they achieve externally. And that resulted in me becoming a semi-professional athlete. I was contracted with the Brisbane Broncos and the Gold Coast Titans between the age of 12 to 18. I got into business when I was 18. I built a six-figure network marketing business at the age of 19, got flown around stages around Australia to talk on stage, then got into gyms. I literally had a gym down the street from this podcast. So I owned 3 gyms by the age of 22. Hit a breaking point though. So that was all like fueled from I'm not enough. So that was the fuel to get me there. I'm insecure. I need to achieve more. I have to be more to be enough. I remember I had 3 times gym owner at 22 on my Instagram bio, just like be the man, right? So it was just all overcompensating. I ended up hitting a breaking point because I was like building business off hype. It wasn't like systems, processes, leadership, and actual strong foundation. And ended up hitting a breaking point, broke down in tears. I gave one of my gyms away to a business partner. Went through COVID with 2 gyms. That was fun. And just had to pivot, navigate, had to fire 12 people in one day. That sucked. And during that period, I was always doing self-growth. I was doing the Tony Robbins. I was doing the seminars, books, podcasts. But especially during COVID, I went real deep into the personal work, got into DeMartini's world, got into healing, into trauma, into purpose, got clear on my purpose, got clear on what I truly wanted. Wasn't gyms. Gyms were just the vehicle I was using at the time. Ended up selling the other gym, and then I had one, and I had hired myself out of it, had a team in there, and I was making $2 to $3 grand a week for an hour's worth of work at the age of 24. And then that just gave me all the time and space. And that gave me the ability to lean deeper into my purpose and how I can then give that back to others. When what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you do your life's best work. So when you know your purpose, you know who you truly are, you give that back to others and get paid to do it, life's fucking good. And so I was able to build a business doing that. Been doing that for 3 years now, built an online presence, got online courses, modules, I got a school community, and now I'm leaning into events, and it's all about helping people pretty much do what I did. You become who you needed when you're at your lowest. So I'm pretty much giving people the things that I needed to get to where I got to now. So who are you authentically? What's your life's purpose? What's your authentic mission and vision? What's your values? Let's address all those limitations, those triggers, those wounds that are preventing you from being the best version of you. But also let's be practical. What's the plan? What's the action? What's the steps? What's the things you need to do to bring this to life? So that's what I do.
That's so powerful. And a lot of that stuff is so simple for you and I to understand, but some listeners will go, whoa, like where do I even start with this? So I want to dive deep into this idea of purpose and trauma and emotions. But before we do, you just mentioned something that you skimmed over, which was your childhood and opening those presents.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable sharing the traumas from the parents and what you were and weren't getting that in hindsight was super positive, but I'm sure until you had the breakthroughs, it wasn't. So what did it feel like? And what was the specific context of what you received or didn't receive as a child?
The story I share most frequently was I think I was around 10 years old. My dad was just very emotionally volatile. He would just snap, punch holes through walls, yell, scream, swear, and just really it's like I was always on edge. Anxiety was the theme of my childhood. I joke around that. I was just so scared to be near him because he was so emotionally dysregulated. He would snap, he would yell. He had all his shit he was dealing with, obviously, and I get that now in hindsight. But I've got this memory. My brother and dad were yelling at each other through the house, saying all the words. I'm not sure I can say it on the podcast. Like, you fucking cunt, you don't fucking talk to me, and this is my fucking house, blah, blah, blah. That goes on. I've locked myself in my room because I'm freaking out. My brother runs down the hallway, locks himself in his room. My dad chases him. He physically punches the door down, tears it to pieces to get into my brother. And I, at that point, disassociated. So I blocked out. I don't know what happened. And I only spoke to my brother early this year because I wrote a book and I used that story. And I spoke to my brother about that event. He's like, oh, fuck. Now that you say that, I haven't thought about that in a long time. He's like, and in my brother's words, he's like, that was just normal for us, wasn't it? I'm like, wow. And I hadn't heard that until I wrote the book. So just kind of heaps of moments of that, just feeling really unsafe, feeling anxious, feeling fearful. And that's kind of the theme of it. Feeling super misunderstood and rejected was more of a social thing for me because I guess the Asperger's part of me didn't understand social cues and social settings and connecting with humans. So I felt a lot of disconnection because I felt being myself wasn't accepted and I had to be someone to be accepted. So that was probably one's more from my own sort of relationships outside the family household. But dad's the main, I guess, wounder. And that's where he's just his emotional instability and his lack of emotional intelligence, lack of emotional regulation, and just feeling unsafe around him. Not that I can remember. There was no physical abuse to me. There was to other family members. My brother shared a story with me of how he got physically abused from him. So there are stories I have from other family members, but from as far as I can remember, I can't remember any of that to me. But yeah, that's a bit of a taste of it.
You're super aware of these traumas and they've built you into who you are. A lot of men are lacking that.
Yeah.
So I reflect on my childhood. My parents separated when I was 4. I remember my father as an alcoholic who was a victim, who was addicted to substances, and who has never stopped being a victim. And I love my father, but he's fucked up a lot. If he listens to this, he'll get angry at me for sharing that, even though it's the truth. Now, I've been able to unpack my anger and my bullshit that fucked up my first relationship, almost fucked up my current marriage. You've been able to work through that too. How does the listener at home unpack these subconscious traumas and beliefs and limiting beliefs and fears that you and I both know are affecting them? Like if there's a guy listening to this, his marriage isn't great, he's disconnected from his wife, his business is a prison. How does he link what happened before he was 7 to now? Because you've done it really well, but how do they do that?
A couple ways you can do it. The easiest way, there's 4 ways. One, you can become aware of your own stuff. How do you do that? You need to listen to podcasts. Like, you can't be held accountable to something you're not aware of. So everyone's doing the best of what they have. That's essentially another way of saying that. So becoming aware of these things. So you'll probably pick up a lot of awareness from this podcast. That's the first way. So self-reflection, reflect on yourself, what's stopping you, what triggers you, which is the second point. That's my favorite one. Whenever you get triggered, and a trigger is when you get activated, that can also be a parasympathetic activation, which is like, so sympathetic is like stress, anger, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, yelling, something like sort of like high energy activation. But you've got parasympathetic, which is disassociation, freeze. So that can also be a trigger. There's 3 things. There's trauma, which is a moment in time in your life where something was too much or not enough. And you break it down to a behavior or a character trait. Someone did something or didn't do something that was too much for you or not enough for you at some point. That's what trauma is when you break it down to its absolute fundamental form. Trauma is one. Second is a coping mechanism or a coping strategy. It can be a trauma response. It can be a shadow. There's other words to describe it. It's what you do to overcome, protect, and avoid the trauma. So say, I'll use an example at the end. Third is a trigger. A trigger reminds you of the trauma and activates the coping mechanism. So probably my most used quote, nothing triggers you, it reveals what's inside of you. So when you get triggered, because unless it's a disclaimer, outside of real fight or flight, if I pull a gun on you right now and you're going to think you're going to die, your fight or flight's going to naturally kick in. Peter Crone has this really great quote. If it's not life-threatening, it's just ego-threatening. So if you're not actually going to die, you're not actually in danger, and you get triggered, someone's revealing a trauma that's within you. So if you just take that awareness and then do the next step, you can find them pretty easily. So you find out when you get triggered. I'll use an example. So you say rejection, that's quite a common one for a lot of people. For your overachievers, being not enough or unworthy is quite a common one as well. Being inadequate, being invalidated, being rejected, being abandoned, list goes on. It's a behavior or a character trait. The goal is to find a 1-word answer to describe or say what that person did or didn't do. So say rejection is one. Say avoidance is your coping mechanism. And this ties into attachment styles if you want to go down that pathway. So rejection is the trauma. Your coping mechanism is you avoid, you run away, you shut off. And then a trigger is when you perceive something or someone does the trauma to you. So when someone rejects you, if you had that, you'd then avoid it. You'd then shut off, you disassociate. That's your coping mechanism to do it. So the goal is find when you get triggered. So one way you can do this exercise, you want to do this exercise with me now?
Sure, let's go.
So think of dad. Now you can only use 1-word answer to answer the question, and it will come down to a behavior or a character trait. Okay. In 1 word, what's the one thing you dislike most about dad? Victim. So when you see someone being a victim, it will trigger you.
Absolutely.
And you won't like it.
Yes.
But this is where it plays out. So you've got the reticular activating system.
Yep.
So what you look for, you find. But if it works in reverse, if I tell you, don't look for a yellow bus, what are you thinking of?
I'm thinking about the yellow bus.
So past hurt creates future fear. What you run away from, you're going to run into. So you're going to try avoid a victim.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're going to look for and find, you're going to find victim. So you're going to find things that remind you of victim or the behavior of being a victim, and then that will trigger you into whatever your strategy is.
And then I judge, and then I try to fix.
Beautiful.
Did it with my wife, do it with all my clients.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then to go even deeper to that, it becomes a part of you that you haven't loved and that you try to hide. So it becomes a strategy. So you will hide and not own this part of you who's a victim. Yep. You'll try to hide it, become a strategy, and then you'll actually shame yourself when you end up doing it. Because every human being displays every single character trait. Yep. You've been nice before, you've been mean before. You've been honest before, you've lied before. You've done every single trait, and so have I. So when you inevitably be a victim at some point, at some moment in your life, you're going to shame yourself for it.
I judge the fuck out of myself. I'm like, how dare I do this?
Perfect.
Absolutely.
And that's the cycle that trauma plays out with.
Yes.
So the goal is to find the trait. It's to find the behavior. So when someone triggers you, like I used one the other day. Who was I?
Can I give you an example?
Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah. So let's say like you're one of our high performing guys. You've been working all day. You come home after a long day. The house is a mess. There's dishes in the sink. Yeah. The story instantly, subconsciously is she doesn't care. She doesn't appreciate me. Then she's upset at you and triggered at you for coming home late. You get into an argument. Yeah. You go to bed later that night. You put your hand on her. She brushes it away. You go, fuck, you don't want to have sex with me. And so if I can read you right here, that is victim, right? but we are blaming them, but they're also blaming us. So how would that play out in that scenario?
You got to find the moment you get triggered.
Yeah.
So victim could be the trait, but it's the individual person. So I had a similar situation actually, so I can mirror that to you.
Yeah.
I was at this event and we essentially do two. So my process for trauma is called my balancing process. My mentor, his is called the holographic process. It's similar processes. I just use different words and different things, but they're kind of the same. So we do full processes over 4 days, also over 6 days. So 4 trauma healing processes over 4 days. On day 3, you have to use your partner that you're currently with or an ex-partner. And I'm like, fuck, I've done processes. I'm trying to find Georgia, my wife. What triggers me about her? I can't find anything, can't find it. I just knew something would pop up. I get home from day 2. So I've been at this event since 8 a.m., finish at 9 p.m., big event. I drive home, get home, walk in, the house is trash. So just dish has been done, kitchen's dirty. I get triggered straight away. So the moment of trigger, or the moment of the trigger, was when I perceived the house being trashed. What's the behavior? What's the character trait that she's done that's triggering me? Lazy. Lazy was the trigger. It's because I had pain around being lazy when I was younger from dad. So you got to find the moment of the trigger and then you zoom in on that. You sit with that. In that moment, what did this person do or not do that triggered me? What were they doing or who were they being that triggered me? You got to answer that question. Once you find that, that's the trigger. Because everything you said beyond that,
it's a story.
and it's coming from a trauma response. I'm triggered, so I get controlling, I get manipulative, I get vindictive, I get condescending. I'm a smart ass. That's mine. So I get super sarcastic and I get super smart assy. That's like my coping strategy. I used to do that a lot. I do it to Georgia all the time. So that's my coping mechanism, is I become a smart ass. So when she triggers me, I'll be sarcastic as shit back to her. So you got to find though, what's the thing that activated all of that? So in the moment where you got triggered, what did this person do or not do that triggered you? Does that make sense?
That's so powerful. So let's say I'm aware of the trigger and I realize that I'm doing it over and over again. How do I then, once I bring that awareness in and I ask myself, what did that person do or not do? Who are they being or not being? How do I then shift it in a permanent way? Because there's moments where I am triggered about that. And there's moments where I just go and do the fucking dishes. So what's the difference between the two?
So you want to find if whatever is triggering you hasn't been fully integrated yet. Now,
what do you mean by integrated?
So healed, integrated, balanced, loved. There's other words to say the same thing. I've dealt with, addressed, healed.
Yes.
Say what you want to say, just different words for it. So this is very DeMartini. I'm a DeMartini facilitator. I love DeMartini, John DeMartini, if anyone watching. So he talks about perceptions. So trauma is a perception. It's a perception that a behavior or a character trait is bad. This is a big one-liner that people will get triggered by. There's no such thing as a bad trait. And people can say rape, abuse, abandonment, rejection, lying, criticism, anger, victim. You can throw whatever trait at me. I guarantee you it's a balanced trait. But it's our perceptions that think it's bad or wrong. The only problem you have is you think you have a problem. So whatever trait you think is bad, that's what's going to trigger you because your perception towards it is something which is bad. So you use victim as an example. So that's why when you see someone being a victim, it's going to trigger you because you think it's a bad thing and you've had pain from it in the past. So what you want to do is balance or integrate or love that trait. So the best way to do it is to find a moment of that happening. And essentially what I did one on Friday for a friend of mine. So we did a process on her dad. What's the one thing you dislike most about her dad? Her answer was selfish. So I found, go to a moment when your dad was selfish, and she found this memory from childhood. He did this thing. I said, great. In that moment, what was the benefits to you? How did it serve you? Because if I was to give you a magnet, I haven't got one, but if I gave you a magnet and it's got a positive side and a negative side to it, I said, I'll give you $1 billion, my man, if you give me this magnet back with one side. You try whatever witchcraft you want to fucking try, you will never give me the magnet back with just a positive side or just a negative side. But that's how we perceive life. We think some traits have just a downside to it. There's that Bruce Almighty, I might get the movie wrong. Morgan Freeman's playing God, and he goes up to this lady, and she's like complaining, playing victim, and he says, when you ask God for strength, he doesn't give you strength. He gives you problems to make you strong. When you wish for patience, you don't get given patience. You get given situations where you have to be patient and learn patience. So people say victim, let's use victim as an example. Victim's bad. No. It's just a trait. What were the gifts that you got by this person being a victim to you? Strength, independence, courage, whatever it may be. It's you seeing the other side to the magnet, and then you recognize it's not a bad thing. It's just part of being a human being. You feel that in your heart, the trigger will go away.
Just really quickly, if you're getting value from this podcast episode, I'd appreciate a massive favor. If you're watching on YouTube, give this a thumbs up, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, give this 5 stars. It helps us reach more men, keep more families together, and get better guests onto the show. So if you're getting value, all that I ask is you take 5 seconds to give it a thumbs up or 5 stars so we can help more people and keep delivering you epic value. I'm a firm believer that every negative experience is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yep, that's
the problem a lot of men have is that they have an argument with their partner, or they're stressed in their business, or they just don't feel like they're not enough, and they sit in how that's a bad thing. Whereas like you said, if you just look at it like, what can I learn from this? How's this benefited me? Then it helps you grow. And so many men stay stuck in the same place for years at a time without growing. So we've gone through self-reflection, trigger, coping, all these other things, doing, being, the laziness you talked about that triggered you. How does coping step into this in terms of sedation? Because a lot of men listening to this, they understand there's a problem, but they sedate. Drugs, alcohol, social media, porn, gambling, or even work, right? Work's a big sedation technique.
I was going to say that, so well done.
Yeah, so talk to me about this idea of sedation. Did you have any sedation techniques? And what do you see as the most common ones? When I say techniques, sedation, things you did that were negative. And what are the most common ones you observe in modern day men?
I would say you've probably touched on most of them. Women, womanizing sex, porn, overworking. I've done all of those. Again, I would just use the word coping mechanism. That's just their coping mechanism.
Okay.
So it's like, I want to avoid conflict. I'm going to go work. I'm going to avoid not being enough. I'm going to go work. I'm going to avoid a tough conversation because I don't want to feel like I don't want to be rejected. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette, smoke some weed. So I would just use coping mechanism instead of sedation. So same thing. It's just finding the courage. Like healing or inner work or addressing the shit takes courage. I'll share this vulnerable story. So I lied to my wife. I did something and I was hiding something from her. And I'm a very intuitive person, very emotional human. And we're watching a movie. And it's so fucking cliche. We're watching a fucking Disney movie, and like we're just watching it. She's on the ground doing a stretch, and we're watching the movie, and I'm just like enjoying the movie. And then I think of the thing that I've lied to her about, and I just start feeling all the emotions like shame, anxiety, and all this stuff. And I'm like tensed up. I literally go take a nervous shit. I literally, my digestion activates. I go take a nervous shit, and I come back, and I don't want to tell it. And all the stories, I'll tell her later. It doesn't matter. I can just keep it a secret. I can just hide it for her. We'll get over it. She doesn't need to know. All the ego was coming up. And I was just like, no, I know this energetically is going to come up and fuck this relationship. I've got to tell her. And I literally took my nervous shit, came back down, sat on the couch, and she doesn't know what's going on. She's like stretching, watching Disney movies. And I'm like shaking, and I'm just literally in my head, counting down. I'm like, I have to do it. I have to do it. 3, 2, 1. I pause the movie, and I'm like shaking, and I'm like tears coming down my face. I'm like, babe, I'm so sorry. I have to tell you something. And I like start crying. I just let it out. And it was not a pleasant conversation. Those are the hard conversations. Those are the ones that you're hiding whatever shame it is, whether it's porn, whether it's drinking, whether you haven't been faithful, whether you're hiding, lying. There's something there that energetically is what's fucking the relationship. Shame only has power by being unspeakable. So it takes just fucking courage to sit in it, to sit in the fucking fire and do it. So
that's what I was going to say about courage is like everything you've shared so far is life-changing. Address your trauma, bring awareness to it, unpack your triggers, have difficult conversations. We give some of our clients the exact framework for a clearing conversation,
Love it.
And they don't do it. Right? They're stuck in this place of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think you and I both know, most men know they're not the best version of them. So how do you as a man listening to this go, this makes sense, then actually turn this makes sense into action through courage? What would be some techniques or tools to implement this stuff?
There's a couple angles I'd look at. If you're not doing it, every motion has a motive. So you want to find the motive underneath it. So most people know smoking cigarettes is not healthy for you, but millions of people smoke. And why? It serves them stress, helps them with social settings, help them connect with their parents because their parents are smokers, helps them feel like a rebel against society or whatever the fucking benefit is. So I would find what's the benefit of you avoiding this conversation? Again, it might be a rejection. It will be a coping mechanism to protect you from something. So you could go address that and that will dissipate the resistance. So you'd be a lot easier to go do that. That's my go-to answer for people. But sometimes it's like, I'm picturing of a Hormozy like sales thing. It's like when someone's, I come from the gym space, as we said. It's like some people, it's like they just haven't hit their threshold yet. They haven't hit the level of pain. Like some people need to hit rock bottom to wake the fuck up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do that. You
Yeah.
can step into that without having to like, he uses that example. It's like, maybe you're not ready. Go put on another 50 pounds. Come back to me when you're ready. Like, go.
And it's a serious joking thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like-
it's serious but joking. Yeah.
Yeah. So hit threshold. Like, you're not in enough pain. Address the thing that you're trying to protect and hide from, and then that's gone. Because once the wound's gone, there's nothing to protect. So you don't have that resistance towards doing it.
Yeah.
That'll be my main ones I'd look at.
Yeah, we talk a lot about now pain and later pain and what we do, and I'm sure you have a similar frame.
Yeah.
And like the now pain is having the difficult conversation, stopping drinking, coming home early, even though you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But the later pain is divorce, heart attack, breakdown, all the things that men go through. You talk about this pain threshold. What's some advice you can give a listener who knows that if they delay, things will get worse, but they haven't felt that pain yet? Because we know some people need to go through it, but we want to help the guys who are willing to fucking do something about it today. So how do you pull that pain from the future in? What techniques would you use with your clients?
I do some meditations that kind of touch on that. So essentially it's like timeline therapy meditation. So you think about where you are right now, what beliefs, what patterns are you not proud of, and things that are like you're avoiding the conversations or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, go 5 years into the future. What does your life look like? Look at all the pain. It's like, feel the pain now. So essentially feel it. All fear is the fear of feeling. So just feel the pain of it now and recognize that's the path you're going towards. And when the pain gets high enough, you'll take the action. So you can go that pathway. I think it's just an honest conversation with yourself and just whether you want to or not. Because on the flip side of the coin, it's like there's nothing wrong with having a shit life if that's what you want. Like, I'm very picky on people's language. When people say you have to, you ought to, you got to, you should, you must, or you're supposed to, that's a projection. You don't have to do jack shit. There are people right now that live on the street, addicted to drugs, and they do that for the rest of their life. And no universal law saying you can't do that, because you can do that. I don't want that. It's what do you want, and just how badly do you want it? And just have an honest fucking conversation of how badly you want it. There's the pain and pleasure drivers, which is essentially what we've been speaking about mainly today. But then there's also the intrinsic drive, which you normally get to. Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So down the bottom, it's like food, shelter, survival, all that stuff. They're pain and pleasure drivers. Once you've taken care of that, which is what we're talking about, it's like you hit that comfortable point. It's like, well, I don't really need to do anything. That's when like intrinsic purpose and all that shit comes into it.
Yeah.
So I would go from what's the thing they're avoiding, address that, and then the resistance will go away. Amplify the pain of what your life's going to be like if you don't change, like what your kids are going to be like, what your relationship's going to be like, what your health's going to be like, what your finances are going to be like. Just really increase the actual reality of that pain, bring that pain into the future, into the present, and honestly get clear on what they truly want.
Yeah.
Because the need for motivation is a symptom of an uninspired goal. So if you need to do anything, if you feel that I didn't need to be here, I wanted to be here. Like, you invited me on here, I could have said, nah, I can't be fucked. But I wanted to be here because it aligned with where I want to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the best version of your life look like? And how much does that actually mean to you? What's your purpose? How much does that actually touch your heart? And then what actions do you need to take to get towards that? So they're probably the angles I'll tackle.
I think the problem is most men have no fucking idea what they want.
Yeah.
And they're not honest with themselves. They fucking lie. Like, I was a liar for so long. I had a successful business, but I was drinking every day to numb the pain. My wife and I were arguing and didn't have sex. And I pretended like I was okay. Yeah. So what do I want? I want connection. I want love. I want peace. I want joy. But then these things I want are completely out of alignment with what I'm doing each day. If you're a man listening to this right now, like you said, have an honest conversation with yourself. What's working in my marriage and what's not working? What's working in my business and what's not working? What's working in my health and what's not working? And once you get to the truth of that, that liberates you. But it's also scary, right? Like, to look yourself in the mirror and to truly take ownership of what's not working means you now got to do something about it. You don't got to, you get to, right? Or you just leave it as it is. And I wrote down here, cost of inaction versus ROI, right? When you lie to yourself as a man, you're not just lying to you, you're lying to your children, to your partner. Yeah. What's the cost to your kids if they watch this version of you for the rest of their lives? Yeah. What happens to your marriage 5 years from now if you don't change? Yeah. Divorce, right? So we've talked a little bit about trauma. I want to talk about purpose. Let's say you're a high-performing guy listening to this. Your marriage, your health, your wealth, they're not where you want them to be. And you're like, what's the point? This is fucking hard. You're stressed out. You have no time. How do you not just deal with this trauma, start getting honest? How do you find purpose in what you do? Like, how do you find that?
Beautiful conversation, man. So Look, I alluded to it before. Your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound. So turn pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom. Absolutely right. So essentially, what your greatest core wound was when you were younger, once you understand it, find it, heal it, then express it, that is purpose. And that's when you never need motivation ever again. I don't need fucking motivation to do what I do because there's an intrinsic link for me to do what I do. You become who you needed when you're at your lowest. So for me, my core wound is hurt, and it was from dad, and I told you what he was like. So what did that younger version of me need? Safety, love, guidance, emotional regulation, comfort, support, XYZ. Look what I do for fucking business. Look what I do with my work. I do the things that I needed back then. And then you can figure out a way to earn it if that's where you want to go. I talk about 4 pathways for like work and making money. Number 1, work a job you fucking hate, never change. Don't do that one. 2, find a career which is aligned with your purpose and values. Because not everyone has what it takes to be an entrepreneur. They're not willing to do the work, the sacrifice. And you don't need to. Like, you can make a great lifestyle working a job, ideally with a company that you're aligned with. 3rd is build a business that isn't aligned with your purpose. It's a vehicle to make you money. Nothing wrong with that either. Like, I've got mates who fall into that category who are in the e-com world, make millions of dollars, but they're not fulfilled because they're not doing purpose. They're not doing the last one. I did that with the gyms. So I got to a point where I had 2 to 3 grand a week coming in for an hour's worth of work, and gyms are not my purpose. I train to look after myself. I don't give a fuck that much about health. Like, I do it to look after the vessel, right? The 4th is to build a purpose-led business. That's where I fucking love it. Because when what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you'll do your life's best work. So that's kind of big picture. To zoom on it, you just got to find your core wound. So there's questions, I can ask you those questions if you want to do them.
That'd be great.
So
Let's do it.
You can only use 1-word answers again. And this is the most intuitive process I do. So you just got to intuitively answer the questions. What's the one thing that you got from dad that you didn't want?
Anger.
Beautiful. Similar to me. What's the one thing you got from mum that you didn't want?
Stress.
What's the one thing you wish you got from dad that you didn't get?
Mentorship.
What's the one thing that you didn't get from mum that you most wanted?
That's a tough one. Tools.
Tools. Beautiful. So I'm trying to remember that. So anger. Fuck, we've got them. Mentorship.
Stress tools.
Stress and tools.
Yeah.
In those words, what's the theme of those words? You can use 1 to 2 words to answer that.
Anger, mentorship, stress tools.
Intuitively, what's the theme of those words?
I feel like it's leadership.
Beautiful. Your core wound is leadership. And look what you do.
Help thousands of men. And it's my life's mission to like help men become better leaders, because when that happens, their kids are better, which means they don't have the same wounds that I had.
Goosebumps.
That is insane.
Cool. We're not done yet.
That is insane.
That's
Woo!
So your core wound is leadership, and
Yep.
this is where we find the younger version of you. So close your eyes.
Yep.
What's the earliest memory of lacking this, of experiencing the leadership wound or not having it?
So one of my memories that comes up a lot, and I don't know if it's one of those memories you make up or if it's true, is we moved to New Zealand from Croatia, and my parents were arguing, and my brother was making a lot of noise, and my dad would yell at my brother, and he hit my brother so hard that I still remember the sound of his head hitting the wall, the concrete wall. And that is like the opposite of leadership.
Yep.
So I don't know if that answers
Yeah,
it.
100%. So stay with that. How old are you? Intuitively?
Probably 4.
Beautiful. Most commonly, just for people listening, the age will be between 3 to 10. So spot on. So just use 1-word answers and just get as many as you can. Aim for 10 to 15 words. What did you need in that moment?
Safety, security, guidance, empathy, love, understanding, care, role model, the 2 words.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. Just the man. I needed the man.
Perfect. Now, you're already doing something that you're passionate about, so you're already doing that in alignment. The question I'd say is, how do you give this back to others? So it's easy if you obviously had them written down on paper. I would say, how can you give this back to others?
So it's in my communication. It's in my understanding. You know, I used to judge my wife so much, and it's such a mirror.
Yep.
I'm so understanding with my wife, my clients, empathy as much as I can give, care, understanding, leadership, and being the man. Like, my mission is to be the best man I can be, because that's what everyone around me deserves.
Love it, man. And you're already doing it. But then the next question is, how do you make money doing it? And you're already doing that.
Yeah.
Because then it goes back to those pathways. You could go then get a job in a leadership role. You could build a business that you don't give a shit about just to make money. And if you do that option, which is what I did as well, you'll end up doing your purpose anyways. You're going to be drawn to it because you're inspired by it. You're drawn towards it.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which is what you're doing, you get paid to do that. You become who you needed when you're at your lowest. So you're giving back what you needed back then, and you're getting paid to do it. That's why you love what you do.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. What about the electrician in Melbourne who's 38 and he doesn't necessarily love what he does, but his purpose is derived from being a husband and a father and a provider? How does that differ to what we're talking about?
It would depend. Like, it depends on what you want to do. So you could potentially go down, I'll find what the purpose is, because purpose doesn't have to be business related. It can be family related, like you said.
Yeah.
So if that's what the purpose is, I want to be a great father and provide, what does that look like?
And then you go back to the wounds of where you lack that? Or
potentially, I'll do values. So purpose and values. So purpose is your greatest core wound expressed, which is what we just did then. Values are areas of life that intrinsically fulfill you. So, and they come from your voids as well. So learning is one of mine because I struggled learning. Relationships was one of mine because I struggled making relationships and connecting with people. Wealth because we struggled financially. Health because I struggled with my health. Your pain becomes purpose again. So I would probably look at values, and kind of what I said, like the three options is get a job where it's aligned with what you love. So if the sparky electrician fucking hates it, then do something else. Yeah. And if you have the courage to then go to a business, then you can do that. Obviously there's a lot of extra things that come along with that decision, but just find a career that's most aligned with what you want. Yeah. Or it could be the opposite, where it's like, I just want to work a job that pays me the most amount of money for the least amount of time, so I can just be a dad all the time.
And that's the values piece, right?
Yep.
So I've never heard it framed that way. So your values, from what I understand, are the things that are intrinsically important to you and that you want to live by.
Yeah, 100%.
So for example, family, health, growth is my highest value.
100%.
So if somebody's listening to this right now and they're providing for their family and they're successful, but they're unhealthy, they're triggered, they're stressed, it seems like they fall into a loop of not living by their values. So the job might be okay. They might not hate it. It pays the bills. But then is that why they're so disconnected? Because they're not living in line with their values?
Yeah, would be. Low self-worth is feedback. You're not living to your values.
Interesting. Low self-worth is feedback. You're not living to your values.
So now, say you couldn't learn, or say you weren't learning. I don't know you well enough.
Growth is my height. Growth and family, but I haven't lived by the family one because I've been growing so much.
Yeah, perfect. And you'll find the balance. When I did a video on burnout the other day, like burnout, there's two types of burnout. There's physical burnout, where you're just not looking after your health. Yeah. Mental emotional burnout is you're not balancing your values enough. Yeah. That's it. So, and just to zoom in on values, because you kind of touched on it, and I'm not here to change the whole world's view on what values are, but most people's view when they hear values, they think of behaviors and character traits: loyalty, integrity, respect, XYZ. They're behaviors. For me, soul's values or life values are areas of life that fulfill you. Yeah. You do them, you're interested in them, you get energized doing them, you think about it, you talk about it, you're curious by it, you want to do them. They're areas of life you do. Freedom's the most common one. Freedom's not a value. Freedom allows you to live out your values. I use this example when I teach it. If I gave you $1 billion right now, you never had to work ever again. You could live a lot of lifetimes off that. You have time and financial freedom instantly. Would you sit at home and watch movies for the rest of your life and do nothing else?
I travel with my family
all
around the world.
So experiences is one of yours, or family. That depends which one that's ticking. Might be both.
Yeah.
Whatever you would do in that situation are your values. If you value travel, you travel the world. If you value health, you get a sauna. You get a sauna in here. So you value health, you look after your health.
Yeah.
If you value learning, you join masterminds, mentorships, XYZ. If you value travel, you travel. If you value home can be a value. You might get a really nice home and get the home that you want. And remember, values come from voids. So what was painful for you becomes important to you. Yeah. So to go back to the electrician, I'll just get clear. What are your values? What's your purpose? Do you want to get paid to do that? Or you're like, you know what? I've set myself up. I've got a career. It's not most fulfilling to me, but it's enough to give me what I want. I want to do and I just want to live my values elsewhere. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to tell someone what they should do with their life. I love the concept of getting paid to do what you love. I love the concept of that. Yeah. Because you'll think about it, you're curious by it, you'll do it more than you'll think about. I had a shower this morning. I was just thinking about, how do I build my business? How do I do this better? How do I teach this better? I'm constantly thinking about it. But not everyone is destined to, or is meant to, or wants to do business.
Yeah. So let's say you're a listener right now and you've got a business and you're successful, or you've got a role that you enjoy and it's paying the bills, but you're disconnected in your health, in your mind, your body and mind, and also your relationships. So let's say you're like diving into your values, you're dealing with some traumas, but the relationship and health are just not there. Yep. Where does somebody start? Because I already know what listeners are going to say. They're going to say, this is awesome, Lewis, but I have no time. I'm constantly busy. I'm surrounded by work. It's a prison. I love it, but like I have no time to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
But then everything suffers.
Yeah.
So how do you break down the time objection? We have it a lot with our clients. Oh, it's Christmas time. Your wife's about to leave you. Yeah, but it's busy time. Like, how do you get over this time conversation?
Look, you choose where you make time for your values, and you choose your problems. So you can choose the problem of like, why do you need to spend more time in your business? I need to make more money. Why?
Yeah. Can I give you an example of this?
Go.
I had a client's wife reach out last night at like 7 p.m. and she was distraught. And she said, my husband has done so well in your program, but he constantly throws money at the problem. And he came to one of your retreats and you spoke about child wounds, and he realized in that moment that he never got praise from his dad. Yep. So he's aware of it, she's aware of it, but he keeps defaulting back to this, I need to work, I don't have enough money, etc. Now you just alluded to the fact why. Like that makes sense for you and I, but how do we get someone like that to actually sit in the why for an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours until he fucking resolves it and figures it out?
If he wants to, you can't drag a horse to water, can't make it drink, especially for this stuff. And that comes back to maybe they need my mentor told me ages ago, life will give you pebbles. If you don't listen, it gives you boulders. If you don't listen, you get brick walls. If you don't listen, you get a bomb. So it's like, you can wait till the pain threshold hits that. You can wait till your wife leaves you, till your kids hate you, till you're having a heart attack, till you're broke on the street. And no right or wrong, go do that if you want. So you can wait till that pain hits you, or you can just say, fuck this, I want to be better. So how do you get someone to do that?
I think you answered it though. You can't get them to do that.
You can't do it. You can't get anyone
to want to do it.
Like you could have threatened me to be here today, and I'd still tell you to get fucked anyways. But if just being honest, right? So it's like outside of like threatening someone's life, and some people don't value their life. They're like, I don't give a shit. Like suicide bombers.
Yeah.
Like that, their life isn't important enough. They're willing to do that. So what's the leverage on them? It's going to be pain and pleasure to start with. And above that, it becomes values and purpose. So what's meaningful to you? Do you care enough about this? Or do you want to hold, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Yeah. So if you want to play victim, go for it.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now. That's an invitation to everyone listening. Like if you have something that's not working in your life, either keep it going as it is, but don't fucking complain about it. You're choosing that, or choose something different. And that choosing something different is very simple, but it's not always easy. It requires radical commitment and action, right? So I want to swap over to relationships now. We help guys fix their marriages. You probably saved a lot of relationships internally and externally. What are the biggest problems you've observed with modern day men when it comes to relationships? What breaks down and causes all these divorces and disconnection?
Most of my clients are women, so I'm going to...
Well, this is great though, because you can give our clients the perspective, right? Of what the women are saying. What are they saying to you?
I'll go broad for both, and then I'll zoom in for men, because obviously I've got my experience and my stuff there. So there's three pieces I see. My mind always likes to break things down to fundamentals, so then you can build from it. So the three fundamental pieces I see for a healthy long-term relationship. Number one, both partners are coming from a secure space. If you're like, I'm insecure, I need validation, I want some attention, and that's why I'm trying to go find someone, you're going to attract someone to mirror that. And it's going to be a very disconnected, shallow, codependent relationship, because you literally need, when people say my partner completes you, that implies you're incomplete. That creates codependency and attachment. So I don't like that part. So you need to be healed enough where you don't need someone to complete you. You're coming from a full, whole, healthy space. Piece one. Piece two, this is what I think most people fuck up this part, is having clarity on the vision for your relationship with the non-negotiables, and make sure your partners is aligned with it. Say, so for me, as an example, self-growth is one of those. I want kids Family is one of those. Looking after your health is one of those. And intimacy and sex is one of those. Say I went on a date with someone and she hates self-growth. She thinks it's a fucking cult. She never wants kids. What else did I say? She hates health. She never wants to look after it. And she never wants to have sex. That would be the worst partner for me. It's like the complete opposite with what my non-negotiables are. Because if you're trying to turn someone into someone that they're not, it's fucking frustrating. You're trying to get someone to do something that they don't want to do. Like I use Hormozy a lot because they look at their relationship, Alex and Layla. Layla's big into business, self-growth and all that stuff. It's like, I don't personally want someone like that. Some people do. Alex does, and that's perfect for him. But people try to turn their partner into someone that they're not. Yeah. So get clear on what's your vision for what you both want. Make sure you're both aligned with the non-negotiables. Yeah. And then you can create those agreements. So before I started dating my now wife, I was into self-growth. I was doing the seminars. I was 22 at the time. So I was doing Tony Robbins podcasts. I was in business. I owned 2 gyms. I was kind of in that growth stage of my life. And she'd never done anything. She'd never been exposed to it. So big red flag for me was she wasn't into self-growth, but we had the connection and I saw like the kids, the health, she was into health and all that stuff. But this was a big red flag for me. So before we started dating, I just said, hey, can I be super transparent with you? The vision I have for my relationship is that me and my partner, we grow together. So we do seminars, we do books, we do self-development, and we heal and we grow together. Because if one partner grows and one doesn't, it creates a huge disconnect. And that's just something that's important to me. Is self-growth something you're willing to get into? And she said yes, and she's told me since. She said that at the start just to please me. And then she said once she got started, she loved it. And since that day, she's doing self-growth. So you got to make sure you're aligned and you have those fundamental agreements. And then the third point is you support and challenge each other towards it. Because that's where your shit's going to come up. Your triggers are going to come up. Your wounds are going to come up. That's going to be natural. Your kids, like I'm not a parent yet, but I can guarantee you've had some triggers with kids. They would trigger you. They would frustrate you. They would stress you. Like things would come up. And you guys work together as a team to move towards the vision. So what's the vision look like? Financially, mentally, sexually, emotionally, family. What does that look like? And then how do we both help and support each other to move towards that? Through tough conversations, through supporting each other, through holding each other accountable. Like sometimes I've like had some shit come up and I've cried in front of Georgia and she's just held space and loved me. And she's had times where she said, Lewis, you said you'd fucking do this, step up. She said that to me, to my fucking face. And she's like, I'm like, you're fucking right. I did. Thank you for holding me accountable. So there's the support, love, support, care for you, and fucking kick me up the ass when she says, you said you're a man of your word, fucking do it. So but she couldn't do that if we didn't have that alignment with where we want to go. Because what if she tried to get me to do something I don't want to do? I'm going to kick back. I'm going to resist. I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to push back on it. So those are the 3 common ones. In terms of now specifically for men, you've probably heard this book a million times. The Way of the Superior Man was huge for me when I read that, of knowing that your purpose comes before your relationship. That was a huge takeaway for me because I grew up in my brother. When he dated in high school, he dropped everything. Like he dropped his sports, he dropped his careers, he dropped everything just to like please his partner, where that seems kind of cute in Hollywood for like a moment. But a woman, a feminine, is truly drawn towards a man on purpose. A man who's on mission, who's on purpose, who knows what they want, who's working rigorously towards that. So that would be a huge one for men as an invitation to really get clear on what it is that you want and be fucking driven to do that. Because when you're at a point where you know your values and purpose, your partner knows theirs, you guys get to go live out and be your own individuals and then come together, be the best version of yourselves and connect over shared values. I'm here right now in Burleigh doing this podcast. I don't even know what the fuck my wife's doing. She's just probably living her values. She's probably at the gym. She values training. She reads like hours every single day. She loves animals, which is parenting for her. So we got animals. So she's probably hanging around with that. And she's just living her values. And then we'll come together and connect over our shared values. So know your values, live to them. Know your purpose, live to them. Have alignment with your vision and have agreements that you guys agree on, and then support and challenge each other towards them. Those are some of the pieces.
If you do that, you'll have the best relationship ever. You probably onboard clients, like people come into your program, they have a system they need to follow. They don't just get given something, go, good luck, figure it out. So we have an onboarding process in our program and we say, what are your expectations from us? These are our expectations of you. And we align those expectations. Patrick Bet-David talks about this. Before he married his wife, he asked her like 100 questions on life. Now, let's be honest. Most Australian and Kiwi worldwide men don't do that. Most women don't do that. So you don't know when you marry someone what their security is or isn't. You don't know what your vision is. And also the vision changes. And you also don't know how to challenge each other the right way or support each other the right way. So let's say someone's listening to this right now. They're like, I want a secure relationship. I want clarity on the vision. I want alignment. I want to be challenged and also supported. And they're not getting that. From the woman's perspective, because you coach a lot of women, What do they need from their man, or want from their man, to be able to get these three things? Like, what would a woman, if she could say to her man with no fear of judgment and no fear of, anger, how would she express that? What would the man need to hear, get to hear?
I'm quite a structured system person, like you were mentioning. Like there's these things that you go through, like
Steps,
the onboarding.
yeah.
Yep. So
Exactly.
the expectations. So when I work with clients, the things I start with is values, purpose, mission, vision. So I would start with that because that kind of leads on to everything else. So I would get the man and woman to get clear on theirs. So I had this conversation about 2 weeks ago. So I had a client who pretty much was what you just said. So she's into growth, she's working on herself, and her partner is like on the beers, not working on himself, victim, complaining about life. She's like, what do I do about that? So my answer was like, you know your values, you know your purpose, you know your mission, you know your vision. Have an honest conversation with him about this is where you're at. You've just had an epiphany moment. You started working on yourself, and I've just gotten clear that I want to move towards a relationship that inspires me, that a relationship that I love. I'd love to know, what does yours look like? And a boundary has consequences. Without consequence, it's not a boundary, it's a request. So a boundary off the back end of that, if they're not willing to do that, fucking leave them.
Even if you got kids, because that's the scariest part for a lot of guys. It's like, or women, it's like, if I leave them, the kids are going to get fucked up, but you're also torturing the kids by putting them through.
But trauma is a gift when you open it.
Yes, exactly. Not everyone's going to open it. That's the challenge, right? So from her perspective, she was able to go, this is what I want. Let's say you're a man now and you listen to this and you go, I don't know what I fucking want.
Yeah. We'll sit down and do it. Values, purpose, mission, vision. Like the some of your questions is like, just do the process. And then it's like, well, how do you get them to do the process? They just gotta have to want to do it. Or
they have to just
hit the pain point or whatever, put a gun to your head, fucking do it. It's like, steps are values. So they're the areas of life. That takes about 20 minutes to do that. Then purpose took us to do the full process, take probably 20 minutes. Then vision. So you use your values to do vision. I use values and then we expand on them. So I would say the question is, what does your life look like 5 to 10 years from now within those areas of your life? And detailed as you can. So for me, coaching, what does my coaching look like? What does learning look like? What does relationships look like? Wealth, health, spirituality, what do they look like? So expand on that. What does that look like? And details. And I say first person, I am this, I have this, I've created this, I've done this. And spend an hour doing that. Create your vision. Look at it. And if you're not inspired writing it, you're not clear enough. Joe Dispenza gets so clear on what it is that it feels real. So because then manifestation, if you go down Joe Dispenza's rabbit hole. So do the thing. Sit down, write down your values. I have a free training on that. It's episode 200 of my podcast. And it's literally a free training and we go through values. Get those, sit down with pen and paper and write down, what does your life look like 5 to 10 years from now within those areas of life, and keep going until you feel fucking inspired by it and reading it. Then you read it and hopefully there's a relationship part there. The detail on that is you use all of your values, but then I have a section for other, because there'll be things in your vision that aren't in your values right now. So like, for example, I don't have family in my values right now, but I want to be a dad in the future. So I still put in what type of parent I want to be in that section too. So you can put that in there. But you'll get clear on your vision for relationships. Okay, for me, we are, off the top of my head, is we feel 100% safe to be vulnerable and share anything that comes up between each other. We are great parents that teach our kids life's lessons, how to balance, how to be their true selves. We have a great intimate sex life that liberates us. We challenge each other and love each other to grow into the people we're destined to be. That's off the top of my head. Have that documented. Okay, that's what I want. Am I worthy of attracting that? Because maybe you got some fucking shit to work on before you get there. Now, is my partner aligned with that? Because they might not be that version yet either, and you won't be that version yet either. That's okay. That's the vision. It's 5 to 10 years from now. Is your partner wanting that? And then how do you support and challenge each other both to move towards that?
Yeah.
And if not, if your partner is like the complete opposite and never wants to work towards that, you got the wrong person. That's okay. Go find someone else. And now that you got that awareness through the dating stage, you can filter quickly. Okay, this person hates self-development. Next, this one hates health. Next, that's okay. Don't turn someone into someone that they want. So someone that they don't want to be. Because you can have that conversation like I did with my wife, where I said, look, she's not into self-growth, but it's a non-negotiable for me. Are you willing to do this? And she said yes, and she's stuck to her word. She's done that since. So that's the actual practical steps.
Have it mapped out, right? So you got to have crystal clarity on the vision. It's interesting you mentioned this. When my daughter was born 3.5 years ago, I had a vision. So I'm a father, very similar to yours. I've got a property portfolio. My business is generating this much revenue. I'm having sex, etc. And I achieved it all. 6 months after my daughter was born, I went really dark. I was depressed. I was suicidal. Then I started judging myself for having suicidal thoughts with a daughter. Like, how dare I? And I looked back and I'm like, shit, I haven't created a new vision. Men don't understand how important this is. Obviously women as well, but we coach men is like, you got to have clarity. So it's like body, mind, balance, family, wealth. If you don't have clarity, then what are you fucking aiming for? It's like putting a destination in Google Maps, but you don't have a destination, you just have a starting point. Where the fuck am I going?
I use the same analogy.
It's so powerful. And what you just shared about vision. So it's getting clear, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? How am I doing it? If you don't know what that looks like for you, and your partner doesn't know what that looks like for her, and you don't align on it, then how can you have a great relationship?
Then you just get pulled in different directions.
It's impossible. It's like having two train tracks. If those train tracks diverge, train derails. Exactly. So we've talked about vision in the relationship.
Can I touch on one thing?
Absolutely.
For that? Every 3 months, do a quarterly reset. It's my favorite, not favorite thing, but I love doing it. So every 3 months, I did it 2 weekends ago, is you sit down and you redo values, purpose, mission, vision, master plan. Because you evolve, things change, you have kids, things happen, resources, AI is coming into the world. So it's like just resetting to it is really important. My wife, about 2 years ago, because I've taught her a lot of this stuff as well. And I was just really off. Low self-worth is feedback, you're not living to your values. I was just really off for longer than I normally am. Normally like a day I'm back into it, but I was like off for like 2 weeks. And she's like, babe, you're really off. She's like, when's the last time you did your values? I'm like, oh fuck, I haven't done it in a while. She's like, go redo them. Redid them. 2 had shifted and I hadn't been prioritizing. So that low self-worth feeling off was feedback that I wasn't prioritizing them. So every 3 months it's like a quarterly reset for a business. Do a quarterly reset for yourself. What's my values? What's my purpose? What's my mission? What's my vision? The values, purpose, and mission are refined and it's like you get clearer and clearer. A vision is added to because you get more inspiration, more things. Sometimes you take shit out because when you first start, you put like the Lambos and all that shit in there. And I don't have that anymore. But some people do, nothing wrong with it. But it's like you get clear on what you want. And the more you do it, the path gets clearer as you walk down the path. So that's where you can get clearer and clearer and clearer and adjust it. Like I redid mine and I'm moving into events for next year. So it's like, what does that look like? How am I going to deliver this? How am I going to do that? And it just keeps you really aligned with what you want.
Yeah, and making the time for it. Because again, guys are going to listen to that and go, yeah, but it's like, dude, make the fucking time. That 3 to 6 hours, however long it takes to build it,
half a day
is worth its weight in gold.
100%.
We teach something similar to our guys, right? And we have some successful men. 3 out of 30 on the last call had actually done it. We give them the exact framework. You just gave them similar, different, and people just don't make the time. And it's like, how can you sit here and tell anyone that your life's shit and that you're not happy when you're not doing something about it? Victim mentality. You can see my triggers coming up.
I love it, man.
So back to relationships, we've got the vision, being aligned on the vision. I would love to hear your perspective on sex, connection, and communication. So a lot of our guys, they're arguing with their wife. They don't see eye to eye. They don't feel appreciated for the work they do. They don't feel respected, which I've realized as a man, so fucking important. And they also aren't intimate. Rosie, my wife and I, she's 38 weeks pregnant. We're having sex 3 to 4 times a week right now. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever. More than we've had in a long time. And she's super pregnant. She shouldn't be having that much sex. But we just feel so connected. And it hurts me to know that men and women don't have that connection. They don't have the communication, they're arguing, etc. So what are some common themes you see from your clients around arguments, a lack of intimacy? What's causing this and how do you fix it?
Yeah, beautiful. I got this from Josh O'Neill, if you know him. He's a men's coach on the Gold Coast. And I went and spoke at Enlightenment in the Bedroom. And I was so surprised I got invited to talk to it. So I went there anyways and did it. But they spoke and it's funny because I went after them and what they spoke about was what I was going to speak about, but way better than what I said. So I was like, oh, shit. So it's essentially whatever resistance you have is that results in the bedroom. The bedroom just magnifies the level of connection that you have or don't have. And they use this analogy, which I'm stealing off them now, is picture your heart and your partner's heart, and picture there's a channel between the two. And if the channel is clear, love, connection, intimacy, depth, vulnerability, all the good stuff. If the channel is clogged and blocked, you have resistance, tension, arguments, all those things. What clogs the channel? Many things. Things like not being respected, not being heard, not doing the things that you said you're going to do. It could be many things, but it's just for you to tune into and say, how's a good cue after knowing this? How's the channel right now? What's clogging the channel? If there's any resistance between you and your partner, what's causing it? And let's go address it. Because if you don't address that and you jump into the bedroom, that resistance coming up in the bedroom. So clearing the channel and keeping the resistance as clean as possible, which requires tough conversations, vulnerability, all the stuff we've been speaking about. That's probably my number one to do that. Because like when I've had tension, when I've had things I'm bothered by, Georgia did something that that annoyed me and I hadn't spoken to it, it shows up in the bedroom. So deal with the resistance and clear that shit out. And then the intimacy and the connection is magnified. That would be the first tip. Honestly, speaking into what you want in the bedroom. Like people get scared as fuck to do that. Like what desires do you want to explore? Do you want to do toys? Do you want to try different things? Like what desires do you actually want to explore in the bedroom? Me and Georgia are super open about this stuff, so we love talking about it.
Yeah.
Healing actually adds a lot into this because the more vulnerability is the pathway to connection, deep connection. So the more vulnerable you can be, the more depth and intimate and greater sex you're going to be able to have. How do you do that? Heal. Because if you have whatever you haven't healed from, you have a mask and protection up to do. So what parts of you are you scared to show your partner? The scared, the wimpy, the insecure, the fearful. What version are you hiding from your partner? Heal through those, and then you can be all parts of you in front of your partner, and that leads to some fucking epic sex. So
yeah.
Clear the resistance, heal through your stuff, communicate the things that you want, schedule it in. Like that sounds unsexy for a lot of people, but schedule it in with business and life and all that thing. It helps us. We aim for 5 times a week, intimacy wise. And that's not that time of the month we do other things. And intimacy doesn't have to be sex too. Like sometimes we cuddle, sometimes we do oral, sometimes we just connect with each other. So it doesn't have to be sex all the time, especially for the women, because a lot of my clients are women. It's just that connection and feeling present, feeling the presence of their man and feeling connected with their man is quite important.
Yeah. So let's say that channel's clogged and especially from my side for men, and I'm sure with the women as well, you're afraid. You know you get to address some shit. You know you get to unclog that channel. But you're afraid to have a difficult conversation with your partner because you might have tried it 3 times and all 3 times she reacted or he reacted. And it builds this defense mechanism. How do you face that fear despite the outcome? Because you might fuck it up. Like it's all fine and well to talk about this. Unclogging a channel might take you a year, it might take you 5. How do you face that fear and uncertainty? Similar
answers to what we said. Heal through yourself. So heal through the thing you're scared of, you're protecting yourself from, you're afraid of, what you have resistance towards. I like, because I've got like a template of how to have a healthy conversation. I call it a healing conversation. So essentially, I'm trying to picture the framework off the top of my head. I'll paraphrase it, but essentially like, my love, or whatever you call your partner, can I have a vulnerable, open conversation with you? Ask for permission. And then pre-framing, which you'd probably understand, it's essentially you to communicate whatever concerns you think will come up later. So it might sound like, hey, Georgia, can I have a really vulnerable, open conversation with you about something? And she'd say yes. And I said, I also like to book it in too, because say she's just had like a hectic thing from her family, something hectic's going on and she's not like emotionally ready for it. It's good to book it in. So you might say, have you got the capacity for that right now? Or do you want to book it in for later? She's like, no, I feel sweet now. Awesome. Look, the thing that I want to bring up, I know you're working on this and I know that's something that you're working through right now and it's something that you're doing a great job with and you've put a lot of effort into, but I want to work on the relationship, make it different. So don't make it an attack against them. It's you, your partner, and the relationship. Make it about the relationship. So can I have an open conversation with you? I want to make this relationship really amazing, really successful, and move towards the vision that we both want to work towards. A concern that's come up is, whatever the concern is, you did this, you said this, you said this, and the way it came across actually really hurt me. I'm just curious, where has that come from you? Why has that come up from you? What's your thoughts on this? And just, you kind of make it a bit more gentle, being like, why the fuck do you do that? Like versus like straight into it. So
fuck you, Sally.
Yeah, fuck you. So that's butchering my framework for it, but it's just politely asking for permission to do that. Making it about the relationship, not the individual. It's the relationship that you both want to work on, that you're both aligned with, that you both play a role in, and say, hey, look, here's my concern. I know this is something you're working on. And I know this is something that you're working through right now. I know it's something that you want to improve on. What can I do to support you with this? What's coming up for you for this? How can I help you with this? What's your thoughts on this? Just making it like softer for them to have the permission to speak into it. So you can, but the challenge as well is you could make the best sales script of how to say it. They can still get fucking triggered.
But you can't control that.
You can't control that.
You can only control your delivery.
And you can do the best delivery on the planet because it does take 2 to tango. That's why having the agreement of what I've said, nothing triggers you, it reveals what's in you. So if both partners or people listening, if you just take ownership of that and you both support each other with that, then you can move through anything. Because no matter, like, when did she trigger me last? We went and watched fucking Wicked the other day. I'm not into musicals. I'm not into it at all.
How'd you survive?
Oh, I went on my phone and she messaged me. She's like, get off your phone. And we had a bit of a disagreement because it's a fucking long thing, man. It was like 3 hours. And I was bored. It wasn't my thing. And she projected her values onto me to get me there. And I went there. And we spoke into it. And so, babe, I know this is something that's important to you, just so you can recognize, obviously, from this experience, this is not something that's important to you. I did it to make you happy. Obviously, I wasn't the best at doing that. I'll work on it. Probably moving forward, we just agree on what's a good alignment for us and what's not. Because this is not for me. If I get you to come watch me play COD for fucking 3 hours, I don't think you're going to enjoy it, are you? Right? So
good frame.
Yeah, we work through it. It's a good one. So yeah, we like it happens, but then you guys look, and babe, look, I've obviously triggered you, so I'm sorry. I tried to minimize apologizing because it implies there's something wrong, which makes guilt and shame play out. But anyways, look, I've triggered you. I apologize for that. I'd love for you to work on that. What's come up for you? I like to find the trait. If you can always do that, like as they arise, what's the trait? What did I do that triggered you? Yeah. Inconsiderate, I think was the word that came up for her. So I was inconsiderate. That's a wound of hers. She can go process that because she knows how to do that.
Yeah.
So if you guys just take the ownership and awareness that you guys are going to trigger each other, that's a normal part of a relationship. It's one of the best parts of relationships is they mirror the shit you haven't worked on. You will heal more than anywhere inside relationships if you take the awareness and ownership of what's playing out, because they mirror you more than anyone else. We've met each other for, I don't know, like an hour now. I'm not how long we've been going for, but you haven't seen the depths of me of when I haven't slept properly, when I've had financial pressure, when the dog's pissed on the carpet, when whatever's happened, the dishes, the washing machine breaks. Who sees that? My wife does. So she's just going to shine lights on parts of me I haven't worked on, which are going to trigger me, which give me the awareness to go work on.
Yeah.
So when you guys have that ownership, you can pretty much navigate anything. Because yes, pre-frame, communicate, hold space, be loving, be empathetic, be loving, but you're still going to trigger each other. You can't avoid that. So yeah.
And it's a very powerful tool to have a partner who can shine a light on your insufficiencies. Yeah, the problem for most guys is that they just react and they get triggered and they don't realize it's happening.
Yep.
And they always feel that shame and guilt afterwards because they know that it was a childish reaction.
Yep.
One of the most powerful tools for a relationship is being able to have open and honest communication. You know, as soon as something comes up saying, hey, you might not even be aware of it, but you just did that thing you said you weren't going to do. I feel this way. The story I've created is this. Your partner goes, I wasn't aware of that. And you work through it within minutes.
Love it.
You know, how many people go to bed just fucking facing the opposite way, not resolving it? I remember Rosie and I, the first 4 years of our relationship, we would have probably 100 of those conversations, angry at each other, looking the other way, but we'd never go to bed without resolving it.
I love that, man.
And we'd always work through it. And that collision created connection. And now we don't get triggered. We haven't been triggered at each other in like months.
Love it.
So powerful. And everyone gets to have that, but they don't deserve it. They got to work for it. Right?
I love everything you just said, man, is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So I love the work that you'd be doing for men because I've 100% just bringing that, what'd you say, collision to...
Collision creates connection, right?
I love that.
Collision creates connection. So I think people think that arguments are a bad thing. Arguments are you guys sharing your points of view, your limiting beliefs, your fears, your uncertainties, your childhood, her childhood, and you're bringing it to light because it exists. If you don't discuss it, it still exists within you. So then you bring it together. You don't have to agree. You work through it and you don't have the same fucking argument. But most people have the same argument over and over and over again. They don't learn and grow. Right? Very, very true. So I want to talk about, to finish up, this idea of being enough. Okay? This is me talking to myself, maybe talking to you, maybe talking to the listener.
Absolutely.
I have recently become okay with white calendar. I've been grinding for years. I've provided an epic life for my family. And now I'm in a position about to my second child and I have enough and I know that I am enough. But I could never feel like I had enough until I realized I was enough. For the man listening to this at home, he's a hardworking provider. His identity is father, provider, protector. How does a man like that keep achieving more without needing it and be satisfied with what he has and who he has? I know it's a very loaded question.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. So you're a parent, so you can do this. When a baby is born, what parts of the baby is worthy of love?
All of it.
Beautiful. But then we grow up. So we're born limitless, but we're programmed out of it. So you are born enough where you don't need Louis Vuitton, you don't need followers, status, whatever achievements you need to be enough and to be loved. You are born that way. From the moment you're born to the moment you die, your self-worth never changes. but it's the projections, limiting beliefs, traumas that we download, which makes the illusion that it changes. So it's the statue of David, which you may have heard before. Michelangelo made the statue of David. Someone asked him, how'd you make such a great statue? He said it was really easy. David was always in the statue. I just removed everything that wasn't him. So essentially, that's what self-growth is. It's removing the layers of you that aren't you to give rise to the fullness of who you truly are. So to help people that feel like they're not enough, it will be a belief or a trauma, which their coping strategy is to overachieve. So it's just finding what it is. The mastery with my work that I do is being able to find what's playing out. Is it a trauma response or is it a limiting belief? They can be similar in the same world as each other, but they are different. So you use different processes for them. So you just got to find what it is. I had a belief, Tony Robbins, that you know, he has his documentary on Netflix, and I watched like 15 times when it first came out. And the last question right at the end of the documentary, he said, which parent did you crave love from the most? Mine was dad. A lot of men will probably be dad. And then he said, who did you need to be for that parent? And mine was an achiever. So I had to achieve to get his love, but then that obviously compounds into, if I don't achieve more and more and more, I'm not worthy of love. So fundamentally it came down to a belief that I need to achieve to be enough. So the thing with the beliefs though, is it becomes a mirage that you'll never arrive at. So 1 gym, 2 gyms, 3 gyms, 100,000, 200, whatever, money, followers.
It never stops. The goalposts keep moving.
It just keeps moving because the beliefs you have are the filters you see life through. So if you believe you have to achieve more to be enough, there's no end goal there. So if you just remove that belief, which that doesn't take long, like a process takes like 10, 15 minutes to do that process. Once you find the belief or the wound, it depends what's playing out, do a process on that and remove that part of you that's not you. It's like people, what do I need to do to be worthy? It's removing the parts of you that think you aren't enough right now. So once you do that, it's instantaneous. So you're just gonna do that.
What about a guy who doesn't realize he doesn't think he's not enough? So a lot of guys, you ask them that question, like, do you have any trauma or wounds around not being enough? So no, I'm fine, mate.
Yeah.
Should be, I'm fine. Yeah. You know, but the reason they're working so fucking hard, the reason they don't come home on time, the reason that they don't communicate with their wife is because they have this trauma.
Yeah.
So how does a man who's unaware, potentially listening to this, what are the symptoms for him to go, yeah, that's me?
Yeah. The quote I use a lot is, the resistance you're avoiding is what's keeping you stuck. So wherever you have emotional resistance, which can be a trigger, which can be judgment, which can be a projection, which can be feeling guilty, feeling shame, negative emotions, wherever there's a negative emotion playing out in your life, which again can be a trigger where you get activated, you just don't like someone, you shame yourself, you beat yourself up, you got negative self-talk, all of that's resistance. Underneath the resistance, you're going to find something. So for the person who's going through that, it requires honesty and vulnerability to say, okay, where do you have emotional resistance in your life? And I just start there. When did you get triggered last? And if they say, oh, I don't have any, don't work for a week. Like, just challenge them. Don't do that. Take your shirt off, whatever. Like, you probably know that Andy guy.
Yeah, Andy Elliott.
Andy Elliott's, I always take your shirt off, and like, that's not necessarily my style, but I see the point to it. If you had resistance to that, the person taking their shirt off, then they have judgment around their body somewhere. So it's just wherever there's emotional resistance, lean into it. Lean into it with curiosity to find out, why do I have resistance to going to the gym, to taking my shirt off, to not working? If I said don't work for 2 weeks, how would you feel?
Yeah,
they tense up. It's like, why? And you
because
go,
I need to, and then you unpack it.
Yeah,
it's like, why do you need to? Because we need more money. Why do you need more money?
Yeah,
and it's just this never-ending cycle.
Yeah, and you follow that breadcrumb trail, you will come to a moment of trauma or a moment of a belief that got picked up or decided on. I decided when I was 3 years old because I come home, and it can be subtle shit like this. Like you're at school, you make this piece of shit painting, which looks like dog shit, but you run home to mum and dad, say, oh my God, mum and dad, I made this thing. It looks so, I love it, or whatever. Dad's on the phone doing work. He's busy. It's like, sorry, son, I'm busy. Go away. That moment, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
I need to be better.
And that's why you grind for 40 years.
Yeah. So you can literally come back to a moment like that. And this is why you just got to be super, sensitive to where you have those resistance and where those patterns are playing out.
Yeah.
And this is the hardest part. You can't be held accountable to something you're not aware of. I picture the ego, which is the identity of who you view yourself to be, as a jar. Ego's not bad. It's got everything. It's got the positive beliefs and negative beliefs in there. It's like a program on that computer or whatever. There's positive programming that makes it run, but if you downloaded a virus, it's going to shut down. So that's limiting beliefs, but all of it is the ego. So the ego is a jar, I picture, and you're in the jar. You can't read the label of the jar whilst you're in the jar. So it's fucking hard to find them. That's why coaching and triggers and awareness is so powerful, because it allows you to self-reflect, to be, oh shit, I don't believe I'm enough. Huh. Wow. Okay. Where'd that come from? Oh, it came from dad. Oh, great. Well, now I learned this process from this person. I'm going to do a process on that, get rid of it, and all that resistance goes away. Beautiful. Where do I get triggered next? Holy shit. I just got invalidated. I got an invalidation wound. Let's do a process on that. It's the awareness to actually self-reflect and become aware of what's playing out, so then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, podcasts, books, coaching, working with yourself, like all that shit will help out with it.
I mean, the first step is learning and awareness, podcasts, but I think there's a lot to be said for coaching.
Yep.
Whether it's working with you or me or anyone else, like find someone that's good, obviously, and you can tell that by their track record.
Yep.
But investing in yourself and doing the work. Like if you're listening to this right now and you're a man or a woman and you have wounds, you have shit from your childhood, you're unhappy, you have negative emotions, you have a shit relationship, you have disconnection, those are all gifts that they're red flags, alarms blaring saying, work on me, work on me. No. But it's actually work on yourself. Yeah. And that's the number one investment you can make. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced since you started investing in yourself, mentors, coaches, your business exploded, your marriage is insane. It all begins with you. Yeah. So if anyone there's so much value here, but if you take anything from today's podcast, like I said on every podcast, invest in yourself. You are the most valuable thing on the planet, not the new phone, not the $30,000, $40,000 car. Fuck that shit. Yeah. You, right? Yeah. So in saying that, this has been insane. Like we're gonna definitely do part 2 if you're down. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack. What is one final piece of advice that you would give to a listener to really turn their life from 0 to 100 as soon as possible?
Probably, I wanted to say one thing when you were talking before. The triggers are the glitch in the matrix. Yeah. I've been saying that lately, but the piece of advice is kind of what we were finishing on. Just be aware of where you have resistance and tune into it, because nothing triggers you. It's revealing what's inside of you. The triggers are the glitch in the matrix of saying, hey, come work on me, come love me, come integrate me, come process this part. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep repeating the same patterns, the same arguments, the same problems, the same shit that keeps playing out for how many years now. Because the triggers, the judgments, the projections, the negative emotions that you have, all of that is just the feedback trying to wake you up to say, hey, come work on me. Because that's the treasure is buried where you're not looking. So where you actually lean into that and address what's coming up for you, that resistance goes away. And then you have more love, more peace, better sex, more money, more freedom, more love, all of that shit. That's the statue of David. It's removing all those parts that aren't you, so you get to be the best version of you. So just be really conscious of your resistance. When you get triggered later on today or tomorrow, take a moment, take a breath. In that moment, what did that person do or not do that triggered me? They criticized me. Holy shit, I've got a criticism wound. Yeah, I keep playing it out. I judge myself. I keep attracting it. Holy shit. Then go do a process on it. So
fucking powerful, man. Lean into that resistance. Yep. Find that buried treasure. It's waiting for you.
100%.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Have an amazing day. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now.